Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, and welcome to our returning voice today. Pat has joined me, and we're both back in the UK, which is good because we're in the same time zone this time, right?
Yeah, that's great, isn't
it? Pat was just asking me why I didn't bring back the sun, but I think that it may start soon, right? I remember when it used to be like April, and you'd need to wear sun cream because you get burnt.
100%. Yeah, but in a way, it was a half a lie there. You've actually brought the sun because you've come back yourself.
Oh, Pat. But I was saying to you actually that going away and coming out of an environment, which is what we could talk about today a little bit as well, going out of an environment that maybe doesn't feel like it's serving you at that time in your life.
Yeah.
And then going out of it and coming back, I've been able to learn a lot from that in itself, like being removed. And then coming back, it's like almost like a new appreciation for the UK and being back on the scene and, of course, being able to see people. And I think that, you know, that even ties into our topic today of building mental
100%.
You know, if your environment isn't serving you, I mean, we know what that can bring, right?
Yeah, we do.
So, we do. An update on you would be good, Pat, because we did an episode, of course.
Yeah, sure. I was stagnant for a while in terms of training because obviously what I suffered from and then what I've obviously happened to me, it doesn't happen to your average athlete. So when obviously I had my operations and when I had the pacemaker put in and stuff like that, they're normally used to people that have elderly age or people that have abused the body through alcohol and drugs and not the right kind of foods. So when I did get it put in, your average pacemaker that gets put under the skin. But you don't normally get somebody that's as heavily as muscled as me. So they can't put it underneath because if they go too deep, you can bleed out. Right. Yeah. So, and that's, I mean, obviously when I had a 6-hour operation and the doctor says that, obviously I know you've never had a pacemaker put in before, Pat, but you're probably always going to feel it. And the reason you're always going to feel it is because we can't go deep enough, right? Because you're very heavily muscled. Do you know what I mean? He said, you'll get used to it and you'll adapt to it. So, but when I actually came out and started obviously healing, first of all, obviously I suffered mentally because anything that you got to do when you're changing your life, you're going to suffer mentally. Whether it's something as serious as mine or a breakup in a relationship, you're going to suffer mentally. Now, for me, never really been poorly ever in my life. Always been strong, always been fit. It was like losing a superpower. Yeah. So for me, you know, it wasn't the physical side that I couldn't cope with. It was mentally. I thought, well, am I always going to be like this? Can I do something again? It was never about my ego. It was never about, oh, I used to squat 500 pounds or 600 pounds or whatever, and I want to get back up to that. For me, because I was suffering mentally, it was, I just wanted to be back to normal. So in a way, when I actually came out of hospital after being in hospital for so long, I could focus on just being back to normal rather than focus on getting another 20-inch bicep or getting my legs back up to whatever. So that was never in the thingy. Whereas I know a lot of other athletes who have suffered, they're talking about, can I get poundages? Can I get this? I just wanted to do, I mean, like, for example, my wife used to walk me to the toilet 10 yards from the front room thingy. So for me, I just wanted to be able to walk to the toilet by myself. Yeah. You know, just the everyday things for me was the challenge. But getting back to the subject, obviously, when my doctors, because they've never dealt with somebody like me before, if you don't have any information to give somebody, you always go to the side of air of caution, don't you? So if a doctor says you can only train 3 times a week where you'd normally train, they just tell you to train 1 because they don't know what's going to happen. So for a lot of years, I was stuck in that I'd rather do nothing than do something and go over the edge again. So that was the fear of doing too much. But then I thought, well, if I'm not doing too much and I'm doing too little, then I'm never going to do too much. But the only problem is when you do too little, you start to deteriorate. And my body literally started to deteriorate. I mean, after my operation, I didn't feel old. I felt weak because I wasn't using muscle. So I lost a lot of muscle mass. I remember, I think it's probably about 2-3 months ago, where I actually tore my bicep just hugging somebody. Oh, no. Just, because I just overextended. Only a little, not a tear off the bone, but just a little pop.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it started to bruise. And that's because I'd not trained my arms. It's just because I lost so much muscle. Do you know what I mean? My legs, when I stood up, I wanted to sit down after 5 minutes because my legs weren't strong enough to go for a walk. So every time I stood up, it was a mental block to stay up longer because every time I stood up, I wanted to sit back down rather than fall down, and people don't see these little things. They're only little things, but they're made bigger by how you feel mentally. Do you know what I mean? So, but luckily for me now, I actually spoke to a doctor, an expert who I'd not spoke to in 3 years, and he says, these are the stuff you can do. You know what I mean? My main concern when I got told by the doctor who put the ICD unit in, my main concern was it has leads. Do you know what I mean? That's connecting. So obviously, the more impact you put on them leads, the more they're fray. Yeah. So the doctor was saying, if you're doing a lot of poundages in weights and stuff like that, then obviously the leads are going to fray, which doesn't impact your health. But what it does mean is the pacemaker doesn't last as long as it should do. So instead of lasting 8-9 years, it might only last 3 or 4. And nobody wants to be getting cut open every 3 or 4 years. Yeah. So I didn't do anything. So I was stuck between a rock and a hard place until I spoke to this doctor the other day, and he goes, you can still live a normal life in terms of training. You've just got to adjust it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Certain things you might not be able to do, you know what I mean, in terms of exercises. But on the whole, 85% of the exercises I can still do. But I was told I could only do 10% of the exercises. And for me, 10% wasn't enough. So I did nothing. So all I did was walk, get on a bike, maybe do a few curls. But even I wasn't motivated to do that because I thought it wasn't enough. Because like with physique people, who wants to be just train the biceps and the triceps and not train anything else? I'd rather train nothing. And that's what I was going through, doing nothing. Yeah. Feeling sorry for myself and stuff, but still staying positive with other people, when I've started training clients again. But for me, like I said, about 3 weeks ago, I got the news that I've wanted to hear for a long time. You can start doing something. So now I'm on the up now. And now, I mean, I think with it's not just bodybuilding. I think with any athlete, if you have a goal in mind, you'll always achieve it, or you'll have a plan to achieve it. Yes. You know what I mean? It's when you don't have one, that's when you're stuck. And that's where I was.
Yeah, for sure. And, I can only resonate a small percentage of course, your journey. But as you know, having the knee surgery, what I certainly found, Pat, and I don't know if you came across this, that actually I got a lot of people saying, and obviously they're trying to do a good thing, but like, oh, it will be really quick recovery. You'll be on your feet in no time. But what I found was sort of difficult in a certain degree with that was that my knee surgery was a complex surgery, and it was a different type of tear. So it wasn't like your normal meniscus damage. So it was a different journey to what other people had maybe experienced. It's nice, of course, that people say, oh, you'll be walking in a couple of days and stuff, but I wasn't able to. So it was quite a tricky scenario, because it's sort of like you want to, but actually what you said there, it's like, you've got to listen to the professional, because if you fuck it up,
exactly.
It's down to you,
It's so and that was the problem with me. I mean, but it got to a stage where I go regularly to get regular checkups, go see my heart nurse, go see the pacing clinic, and I've got a box at home, which basically sends data back to the hospital that if there's anything that's going on internally inside my body, I get a phone call. Can you come in for the checkup and all that kind of stuff? So, but at the same time as well, I can go see my heart nurse once every 3 or 4 weeks, and they'll turn around and say, we know that you've been sitting on your ass doing nothing, because obviously they get a lot of the heart rate readings. So basically, if my heart rate stuck around 60, then I know that I'm not doing nothing. If it goes up to 100, 120, they want to see that, don't they? Because they know I'm moving and I'm doing exercise. So I was caught between a rock and a hard place by thinking, well, I don't want to do too much in case it hinders me. But obviously I can get the feedback from them saying, you're not doing enough, because your last 4 weeks of readings, your heart rate's just stayed around 60. So literally you've done nothing. Do you know what I mean? So now for me now, it's just the confidence. And at the end of the day, people close to me, obviously like yourself, knew what happened to me. But I'm accepting it now in a fact where obviously my life was saved and I was one of the lucky ones. So I've kind of been on the other side. So worrying about going on the other side again is not going to get me anywhere. So might as well just stay on this side and just look at the fact that I'm here now and focus on whether it's another year, another week, another 20 years, rather than you're almost like when you're poorly or when you're hurt, you're waiting to get hurt again, aren't you?
Yeah.
As opposed to, it's just, people don't understand it unless they've been through it. Do you know what I mean? But if something happens to you and it really hurts you physically or mentally and emotionally, right, you're kind of waiting for that to happen again rather than going, right, I'm going to have a point. That's behind me now. Let me move forward. It's not as easy as people think.
Yeah, for sure. And also you get little things, don't you? Like little signs if you are overdoing it. And I think that certainly, there is those elements of, I think sometimes when you're going through this mentally and you're, like you say, injured, even ill, you can, of course, feel sorry for yourself because it's shit.
100%.
And, you're on a path, you might have your timeline of your physique development, and everything else.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, the dynamic changes. But what's also important, and we spoke about this when we had a catch up the other day, is that whoever is advising you, and this is something that I think is important for the listeners to take on, if something has occurred, if you're getting advice, if you've had surgery, illness, if your coach is not, if they don't have the knowledge in this realm, as it were, is probably the best way to and they're saying to you, oh, well, maybe try a bit this or maybe try about this. You need to address almost the elephant in the room and go, okay, so do I need some other professional guidance or, do I need some additional help? Because unfortunately in our space, coaches do say I'm a specialist in X, Y, and Z, and you can end up potentially maybe going backwards even, right?
100%. I mean, I couldn't put it better myself. I mean, I've had some great coaches over the years. I've had probably, as far as I'm concerned, in bodybuilding, the best ever coach and the best ever mentor in Kerry Case. And then I've had some really good, bodybuilders that helped me around. Ian Morgan was fantastic for me. Colin Wright was fantastic. But one thing they all kind of taught me is like the first part of coaching. I don't think it's coaching. I think it's mentoring. Somebody comes up to you, for example, like if you came up to me and says, right, Pat, I want to lose some weight. I want to get in shape. Your average coach nowadays will write you out a diet and write you out a training program, which is right to a certain degree. Coaches like ourselves, the first thing I want to know, what job do you do, right? How many times a week do you work, right? What's your lifestyle like at home? Do you know what I mean? Because the copy and paste king and queens out there, right, I've got to understand where you are mentally. Right. Not many people can sustain a bodybuilding diet. So your average person who's been in how they've wanted for 10 years, you can't put them on a 4 or 5 a day program being really strict. You know what I mean? You've got to work around the lifestyle. Like I've got a lot of friends who are taxi drivers who sit down for 12 hours driving taxis. You can't expect them to do a 6-meal program a day when they haven't even got 2 minutes to themselves. So this is where a lot of the coaches are going wrong now. They're not asking about somebody's lifestyle before they advise them on training and diet. It's, because you got to be able to fit in. When I was bodybuilding, right, I had to work the door and I worked at the job center, right? And I chose them jobs to fit into my lifestyle. Do you know what I mean? Because when I was working at the job center, I was sat down at the desk and I only got up every now and then. So I could go to my desk, have my planned meals, then go for walks afterward. So so whatever you're doing, whether it's stepping on the bodybuilding stage or just getting that little bit black dress to go on holiday, you have to be honest with your coach and say, this is my lifestyle, so how do you work that? But your coach has got to be honest with you and ask them questions first. You know what I mean? I always do an example when I'm training with people and the level that they want training at, I train them before I commit to them, right? And then when I put them through a workout and they go, I can't do this 6 times a week or 5 times a week or 3 times a week, I won't take them on. You know what I mean? Because you're committing. It's like a relationship, isn't it? So if you're committed to somebody and you're giving 100 Why are they only giving you 50 and 60? Because listen, when you step on stage, right, the credit is all yours because your hard work, right? You do. If you win, everybody can say you look fantastic, right? Most people now, when they get it wrong and they're on stage, the average person in the audience say they must have a shit coach. You know what I mean? Right? How's he let him go on stage like that? You know what I mean? And that is, at the end of the day, right? Some coaches, yeah, might allow that, but this is why I don't believe in the online stuff to a degree where you don't actually see your clients. I will work with people online, but I need to see them first. I need to pinch the skin. I need to see them unfiltered. Do you know what I mean? I need to see them in the true honesty. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, you're not going to get a job now just going on social media by punching in and putting an interview. They still want to see you. They still want to see your personality to see that it fits. Yeah. And the industry is there's some good things from the industry now, but like we've been here before, you hear about this old school and new school. Education is education, right? It's as simple as that. It has to be something that fits. It has to be something that you can relate to. There can be people with more knowledge than you and less knowledge than you. I've listened to both. Yeah. I've listened to a 19-year-old and gone, wow, he knows what he's talking about. Yeah. I've listened to a 60-year-old and thought he doesn't know a thing. Yes. Do you know what I mean? It's what you know and what you learn, and it's what you give back. It's like, for you, the reason I do these podcasts with you, and it's simple, you care. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people out there that it's all about the Benjamins, earning a living for your family, paying your bills and earning money. Yep, first and foremost, I get that, because you've got to provide for your family. But 80% of the coaches nowadays, they couldn't give a shit about their clients. Do you know what I mean? It's how much money they can earn. Do you know what I mean? Because if I'm lying, then why am I seeing posts of all these coaches in always putting holiday programs on and always driving the new cars and always wearing the nice clothes, but yet you don't see many testaments of how well their athletes are doing or stuff like that. So you're thinking, if you're a mother and your kid's doing any kind of training, are you going to be impressed with the fact that you're handing over hundreds of pounds a month? And all you're seeing from the personal trainer is he's got the new Burberry, or he's got the new this, or he's got the new Nikes. You know what I mean? You want to see results. Do you know what I mean? And there's great coaches out there, some good young coaches out there. Do you know what I mean? That know what they're doing and stuff. But the industry's changing where there's no respect. You know what I mean? You know yourself, right? I've known clients now, all bodybuilders, male and female, that I've had 10 coaches in a year. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Don't need to call names. It's dead out there on the web. Yeah. Why would you want 10 coaches? I've got some great athletes, and I know some great boxers, because I've been in the industry a long time, that have the same coach for 20 years.
Yeah, I love that.
Right?
I love
that. And I love that. You know what I mean? And those are the ones that are the most successful. Why do you change your coach? First and foremost, you change your coach if you've got a personality disorder, which is what I call it. If you don't like what you look like, and then you like what somebody else looks like, and then you say, I want to work with that coach because Sarah looks brilliant, but the coach that I'm working with don't make me look as good as her. Yeah. Why is that the coach? Why is that not you? You know what I mean? And there's not enough people honest enough to turn around and say, I need to work harder for my coach. I need to be honest with myself. They think, right, well, my mate's got a coach and he's shredded. Why am I not looking like him? I'm paying the same amount of money. I'm just working just as hard. Are you? No, you're not. Do you know what I mean? And for me, this is where the industry is failing. Back in the day, like, I don't compare old school to new school, because I think education is education, whether I'm 50, whether I'm 14. But why when you see the Dorians of this world putting statements on that we worked harder back then and we look better back then, to a degree they're right. And this is where I'll say they're right, and I'll challenge anybody. No social media. So when you turned up at a show, you had to be on point, because you didn't know what the other guy was going to look like. When I was competing in the 90s, right, even when I wasn't placing well, I still turned up the best I could be, because I thought, I don't want to be the guy that comes last. I don't want to be the guy that looks rubbish. So we all worked hard. I used to place in top 10 in shows, and when I was coming 10th, back then, there's guys that are winning now shows, and women, that wouldn't even have placed in the top 20.
Yeah, it's a very different dynamic when you look at it.
It's a different dynamic. I've known people turn around when I've offered them advice for dieting and turn around and say, well, I'm 16 weeks out, Pat, when shall I start dieting? I said, well, I like you to, obviously, normally 12-week diet's good, but let's do 16-week. Let's do 4-week if you're getting used to your food.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So you're not just going straight in, stuff like that. And then do that. Do you know what I mean? Everything you've got to build yourself up to. Nowadays, it's just people just want to jump in and place, because the placements, I can't put that I've come fifth when I've told all my people I'm going to come first. But social media now, you can actually go on social media now and go, oh, I'm competing against Paul Johnson tomorrow. He's 6 weeks out. I look better than him 10 weeks out. Yeah. So straight away they cut back the diet or go out with a girlfriend the weekend and thinking, I'm already in front of that guy. And that's what social media does. It makes you believe that you're better than you are, because you see other people that you're competing against and you think, I'm better than them now. So therefore, when it comes to time to show time, I'm going to improve. Do you know what I mean? I used to do it when I first started competing. I used to look at all the magazines, all the top guys, your Zacks, your Dave Titterton and stuff like that. And they always looked so great in the off season. You know, they always was in shape, and I got a little bit soft and I got a little bit round. Do you know what I mean? But what I found was I always had to work. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I never got out of shape, but I got enough out of shape where I had to really work really hard. Whereas if I knew some guys that were in shape all year round and actually thought they was in better shape than they were, so they thought, should I do a 10-week diet? No, I can be ready in 6 weeks because I've already got my midsection or I've already got my serratus. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And there lies the problem. Yeah. There lies the problem. Nobody wants to be honest. You know that. For me now, right, thank God, right, I'm well respected in this industry, but I think I've earned it because I've been around a long time. You know, I've paid my dues. I got beat when I should have won. I might have had some shows where I placed higher because of my name. I've been to both sides of things, right? So for me, what people don't realize is people like me who've got a lot of respect, right? I owe it to the industry to turn around and say, yeah, I do cry sometimes. Yeah, I am hurting. Big Pat Warner, no. Your image, you've got an image. My image is, to be honest now, didn't always. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I was hurting in silence, I'd just hurt in silence. I never said nothing. Well, I'll never do that again, because I know a lot of people who are now coming forward because of something I've said. So for me, that's a positive. You know, from our last podcast, I've had loads of direct messages from grown men and women saying, I would have never, ever thought you would have gone on social media and said that because of the kind of person you are. Now, that's not the kind of person I was. We can't help how people build us up. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You know what I mean? That's why a lot of people are very sad when they meet their heroes, because they put them on a pedestal, and in reality, most of them are assholes. So they think, well, the celebrities... But the celebrity is not the arsehole. You're the arsehole for putting them up there in your first place. They never asked you to put them up there. You put them up there. So when you meet them, you're disappointed. And it's you that's doing that. So you're going on social media saying, oh, The Rock's a toss. I've met him in real life. Well, hang on a second. Nobody said he wasn't. You said he was the greatest thing since sliced bread till you met him. And there lies the problem. There's not enough transparency and honesty. And I think that's why I did my first podcast properly with you, because of the transparency that you showed. You know, you bared your soul. You know what I mean? So when you're speaking to somebody like you, you're thinking, well, if you're willing to do that, so am I. Right? And I know loads of people on social media. I'm not going to call them out. And I see them putting these great things, great content, and how their life's living. But I actually still see them. And I know, no, your life's shit. You know what I mean? You're upset. You cry every night, but you want to pursue. But you're actually thinking you're helping people by pretending to be something you're not. If you really want to help somebody, let them know you're hurting. Let them know you're hurting, because then they can turn around and say, well, I'm hurting too. You know what I mean? So now you're giving me courage to come forward.
I've had this example many times when I've met people that I've, like, in the early days, right, Pat? Like, all I wanted was to be liked in the bodybuilding realm. And and I found myself on Instagram and people would engage with me and things, and I'd be like, you know, wow, all these people like me, and, you know, being in an unhappy marriage, etc. It was, you know, positive for me. And then I met these people at expos, and I thought, Christ, you're not the person on social media. And this is multiple times. And
and big names as well.
Yeah, people that, and in person, it's almost like you're a piece of shit, and it's very disheartening. And I think a message actually as well is that, are you choosing your coach because of how many followers they've got, or are you following them and looking for a service, right? It's super important.
So it's a great point. Yeah, but the thing about it, the average person that follow coaches see who the coaches are training, and so it's almost like, oh, well, if he's training Pat Warner, he must be good, so I'll follow him. Might not be good for you, though. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, right, you know, if you're honest with yourself, the first thing you're going to say to a coach is, when you meet this coach, you know, I suffer from disorders or suffer from a bit of mental instability. I get angry all the time. I'm doing this all the time. I've got tendencies to be late. I can't stick to certain stuff like that. If you say that before you've even dealt with the coach is then going to turn around and say to you, this is what I can do for you. But this is what I'll do for else. I'll give you an example. My boxer, professional boxer, Amin Janzam, top featherweight. When he came to me, I'd never worked with a pro boxer before. I'd been around Kerry, working with Ricky Hatton and stuff like that. I've had some amateur boxers and stuff like that. But because of my time that I spent with Kerry, and he says, every athlete are different. You know what I mean? You have to train an athlete like whatever he does in his sport. You have to design a training program that he'll say, oh, I do this in my normal sport, so this feels natural when I'm doing it in training. So, but you've also got to be honest. So my boxer came to me and asked me a few questions, which was easy to answer, like dropping weight and stuff like that. I know that. But then I didn't know how to lose weight off a boxer to maintain his fitness, to maintain his health. Do you know what I mean? I can get him in, if he weighs 9 stone and he wants to be 8 stone, I can get him down to 8 stone like that.
Yeah.
But can I get him down to 8 stone where he still keeps his strength, where he still keeps his flexibility, where he still keeps his fitness? No, I can't, because I've never done it before.
Yeah.
So the first thing I said to my boxer was, this is what I can do. But if you ask me these questions that I can't answer, I've got somebody in my team that can help you.
Yeah.
And it's not me that's taking credit. And then they feel comfortable then, because nobody knows it all. But you get a lot of coaches that'll turn around and say, stick to the plan. Yeah, but this plan's not working. What do we do then? Be patient. Instead of turning around and saying, well, I don't actually know what to do now. I'm just guessing. Don't guess. You know what I mean? Nobody knows it all. Do you know what I mean? Look at some of the greatest physiques of all time. They've had help. You know what I mean? And they don't, you know what I mean? They don't turn around and say, yeah, they've got the genetics and they've got this and they've got that and they've got to work. But they're not scared to ask the questions, how do I get to the next level? I remember, if you watch Ronnie's video, I remember when everybody was beating Ronnie, including Lee Priest. And that's no disrespect to Lee Priest, because Lee Priest was a phenomenal bodybuilder. But he shouldn't beat Ronnie, you know, when Ronnie's at his best. But Ronnie sat with Leveron and he was speaking and he was saying, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Do you know what I mean? And then Kevin goes, this is what you're doing wrong. Do you know what I mean? And he told him, because we don't know it all. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But too many people are scared to ask them questions, and too many coaches are scared to admit to their clients, I don't know everything.
Yeah. That is so important, Pat, because
very important.
Also, I feel like probably that difference of, like, if we were going old school, new school, like nowadays there is specialists for GI health, for eating disorders,
100%.
You know, all of the different things that can sort of occur, thyroid conditions, all of these things that can come off the back of bodybuilding, or maybe they were there before.
Yeah.
And you've got all of these specialists, but I see people that are not qualified to give specific information about certain medical conditions.
100%.
And, you know, we actually spoke about
100%.
like this self-restricting and eating disorders and this realm. And I said, I'd ask you on the episode actually about, from a male point of view, actually how you found it quite hard to eat off plan and not restrict and overtrain off the back of that. I think that'd be quite useful to talk about from your experience as an athlete.
In what aspect? Sorry.
So when, you know, your coach was trying to get you to sort of have more off-plan meals and cheat meals, but you called
Yeah, right. Yeah. The problem was, right, with me, I've always been, whatever sport I've done, I've always been anal. One thing about me, I always knew that if I ever won anything, it would be on the strength of hard work and not talent and genetics. Do you know what I mean? Because when I was younger, I was very good at a lot of sports, not excellent at any, but very good at a lot of sports. But one thing I had was a great work ethic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So once I was going to do something, you know, I'd never deviate from that plan. So when I first started doing a proper bodybuilding diet, and then I started working with Kerry, and he goes, right, first of all, there's no such thing as a cheat meal. Don't believe in him, he says. He says, I believe in a treat. Just like if you're working 9 to 5 and then you work hard for 40, 50 hours a week, you might go self and treat yourself to a pint because you've worked hard, you've earned it.
Yeah, yeah.
He says, so as far as I'm concerned in bodybuilding, if we're talking just about bodybuilding alone, no, there's no such thing as a treat meal. A treat meal differently, because I might give you a treat meal once every 6 weeks, or might give you once every 10 weeks, or every week, depending on how hard you've worked and what you look like.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
where you're at. Do you know what I mean? So for me, that's where I want you to be. So I remember doing a diet. I remember getting ready for a show, and I think it was 8, 9 weeks in, not had a treat. And he says, right, today, go out with your missus, have something to eat, relax. Don't stick to a food plan where if you get up in the morning and you feel like you don't want to eat, don't eat. Eat when you're hungry. Just take this day off because you've worked really hard. And then we'll come back and we'll start the process again and see where we are. Perfect. So anyway, I stuck to my meal plans. I couldn't, you know what I mean? I stayed on diet. But then I thought, you know what? I'm going to have one meal, right? Or what I want. But so I don't know. I mean, I normally like a bit of steak and a bit of chips with some sauce and a bit of ice cream or a slice of cheesecake. So I had that. And I had that at about 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night. Sat there feeling guilty for about an hour afterwards. Got on the treadmill for an hour afterwards because I felt so guilty, even though I've been told that. So anyway, when I saw him the next time, I saw him, I think it was almost 24 hours later, and I saw him, and he said, did you have a treat last night? And I went, yeah, and we had a workout. I went, yeah, I did. He says, did you do some cardio last night? And I'm thinking, how the hell does he know? And I went, yeah. He goes, are you going to ask me how I knew? And I went, yeah, I am actually. He said, well, obviously your body's relaxed now, right? And you put some good fats back into it and a little bit of cheat, right? That would reflect in your workout. You know what I mean? You'd get a better pump. Your muscles would be fuller. You're still depleted. You know what I mean? Because everything, all them nice calories that you put in, I want you to soak up and fill out. You've just worked them off, right? And that's when I understood it, right? So for a long time, you can be too anal. And when I started to relax more, put in the work when I needed to put in the work, and back off when I needed to back off, my physique were at its all-time best. You know, you can be too focused. Do you know what I mean? Or on the flip side, you can be not focused enough. But that was my problem before. I was too anal. But when you're too anal, this is the point we're getting to. When you're too anal, that's when you become depressed because you're sticking to the letter. You're not having no time off. But the worst thing that happens is when your body adjusts to just doing something day in, day out, you're going to hit a sticking point. When you hit that sticking point, this is the first thing you're going to say. I've just dieted for 12 weeks, not missed a meal, not missed a workout, not been anal, and my body hasn't improved. So then you start thinking all that hard work is for nothing. But what the point is I'm trying to make is sometimes you've got to look and turn around and say your best results in life, not just in bodybuilding, is when you relax and when you have yin and yang, when you have balance. You know what I mean? All these people that are too focused and too blinkered are the ones that fall off the wayside. Yeah, they might have a little bit of early success to start with, but until you've got that balance in your life, because what are you beating yourself up every day for? Looking in the mirror and thinking, I ain't improved. At what point are we going to register in your head that I look good? Because all you're going to do is see the negative side of things. I'm not improving. I'm not improving. And that's when you jump from coach to coach to coach to coach to coach, right? Mentally, you know what I mean? If you've got a great coach, this coach is going to actually say what me and you were talking about now.
Yeah, yeah. I really like actually that it rounded off.
You've got to be a mentor.
Yeah, because also, you know, why is it when we dig down on why is it you're looking for, I call it like the magpie effect. It's like, what's the next best thing? What's the next best thing? Sometimes I think, Pat, that actually maybe some athletes is going well, but they almost think, oh, it should be so much harder, or this coach will work me harder, or, you know, they're maybe looking for it to be like, I'm going to war. And it's like, chill, you know.
I used to listen. You're right.
Yeah.
And Kerry Kayes and a lot of people that know me will back me up on this. Every time I died, once I got into bodybuilding and understood it, I went to war.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I went to war, and I'll tell you a story. It's a true story. This. I remember competing in Leeds, and I competed with two phenomenal bodybuilders that no longer compete anymore. One was Dave Titterton, and the other one was Harold Dombrouskas. Phenomenal physiques. And I'd kind of strayed off my diet a little bit, wasn't at my sharpest, and only the top two go through to the Britons. But I've been around a while. Yeah. So anyway, it was clearly that Dave and Heraldus were better than me. So I think Heraldus won, Dave Titson come second, and I got third. Yeah. So anyway, this is at a qualifier. And then anyway, after the qualifier, I was disappointed, but I knew I'd got something wrong. So I wasn't that disappointed. And all it says we're putting the top three through to the Britons. Right? So I went, wow. But I also realized that I'd only been put through because of who I was, Pat Warner, top draw, should be at the Britons. I knew it wasn't on merit. So the very next day, I rung Kerry and I said, listen, Kerry, I'm not happy with what I look like. And I know I got it wrong. And I know also that I've only been put through on my name. But I don't want to go to the Britons and not do no. And I know I've got it wrong. Can I come and see you? He says, yeah, but you'll have to come tomorrow. So obviously it was a Saturday or Sunday compete. So I was at his gym the very next day, drove down, told him what we're eating. And this is what he told. I think we was 11 days out from the Britons. And he says, this is where your physique is at the moment. You're going to have to lose £1 a day. Right? So you're going to have to lose 11 pounds. You're going to have to be so religious with your diet. It's going to be the world's most boring diet for you to get in shape. And when you get in shape and get that fat off, you're going to be so depleted that you still might not place anywhere. And I'm telling you that now. So, but it's your choice. So you can either quit and come back next year, or you can do it. But secretly he wanted me to do it, not because he knew I was going to place anywhere, but just to see if that I had the mental fortitude to dig. I didn't know this at the time. He told me this afterwards, but I'm telling you, I'm just giving you a heads up. Anyway, I went to see him. So I went to see him. True, I lost £1 every day religiously. Went to see him, I stuck to it. Went to see him the day before the Britons. I looked fantastic, right? I didn't know what depleted were. I didn't know I was full and stuff like that. And I thought I'd look fantastic. And I looked at myself and I was happy. Little did I know that I was totally depleted, and no matter what food I put in me in the next 24 hours, I wasn't going to fill back up. But I didn't know this at the time because I didn't have that experience. So I go to the Britons. I go to the Britons the next day. Gets in my hotel. We have breakfast in the morning, and Kerry says, I'll come have a look at you. Just give me a ring before you go into the arena, and I'll have a look at you, tell you what I think when I've got my tan on and everything. So he come and look at me. And he goes, I was buzzing. And he went, you look absolutely fantastic. The work that you're putting is absolutely incredible. It's good. I just want to place. I'm not bothered where I come. I want to, this hard work I put in. He went, you're not going to place looking like that. So I've gone like, what? Man's got me to lose £1 a day for the last 11 days. Said it's the best I've ever looked. And the last thing he's saying to me is, you're not going to place. And I couldn't get my head around it. I mean, I love Kerry to this day. But I almost thought, you're a twat. You know what I mean? What have I learned here? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So anyway, he said, you know what you've learned here, Pat? Don't leave anything to chance. right? He said, but what you've also learned is just because you've worked really hard and got yourself in great shape, don't mean I'm going to pat you on the back and say, you look amazing and you're going to do well today. Yeah, you look amazing because of where you come from. You deserve the pat on the back because of hard work you put in. But you're going to go on that stage and you're going to get disappointed because of you've left, you know what I mean? So anyway, gets on stage, gets the first call out in the top 6. Obviously, because we're all stood back and I was in great condition. Great condition, that's all I was. So I got the first call out. And I thought, well, Kerry don't know what he's talking about. He does it. I've just got the first fucking call out. So anyway, that was the first and last call out I got. Didn't get another call out again, and everybody else got called out. And back then, the last 6 are called out for the last comparison is normally top 6. I don't know if it's changed now, but back then, right, we want to see one more comparison, blah, 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 blah. And that's normally top 6. Yeah. So the top 5 that I was matched with, they were in it, and I wasn't, and somebody else was. So I kind of knew then, right? So anyway, afterwards, didn't place, didn't do anything. So obviously you go for the judges' feedback. And obviously, because I knew the judges, I says, how comes I got the first call out? They went, Pat, you looked incredible visually. But when you started posing, nothing happened. You looked exactly the same. Whereas if other people started jumping, started popping, the physique started coming alive, well, mine weren't going to come alive because I was absolutely totally depleted. I didn't look contest ready till about 3 weeks after the show when I was eating nothing but crap, and then looked phenomenal. Do you know what I mean? So it's you know, the lessons that you have to learn. Do you know what I mean? Is you've got to be honest. But what it taught me is that Kerry said to me, "You've worked 11 days, right? Like I've never seen anybody work, right? And you got nowhere. You got no rewards. That can happen if you do the same for 20 weeks, right? You can work too hard, right? Stick to your plan. And then when I came back and won the Britons, I dieted for 20 weeks when I won the Britons. 20 weeks. I could have done 52 weeks on the diet that I did and never struggled. It was never hard. In fact, I was saying it's too easy. Do you know what I mean? And when I won the Britons, you know what I mean? When I went to Leeds, and I got rave reviews of how my conditioning was. And when I went to the Britons that year, I wasn't even in the top 6 in people's heads. You know, when you read the magazines and who's going to win the Britons this year, my name wasn't even mentioned. So when I actually won the Britons, I surprised everybody, right? Including myself. Do you know what I mean? Because I thought, this is the easiest I've ever had to work, and I'm last man standing.
And I'm loving it.
And then I dieted for 11 months then, and I didn't compete again because I had a year off, but I just dieted for 11 months and just increased my food, and I never struggled. And then every time I wanted to do a little mini cut and I busted my balls, I didn't feel right. So you can work too hard and be too anal. Whereas if people think, oh no, they look at other people and goes, well, I'm not doing that. I'm not working that hard. So they start working even harder. But the stress that they're putting on the body emotionally and physically, by the time they realize they've got it wrong, it's too late. So they either pull out or get another coach.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's facts.
And if you have stuck to the plan to the letter also, there's merit in going, well, if it hasn't worked out and my physique hasn't responded the way that you'd like it to, you can actually go to the coach and say, I did everything. Now, even if that is, well, you said you sort of mucked a few things up and whatever, you've still got to tell your coach.
Yeah, of course you have.
Yeah. You know, if you come away from the plan for whatever reason.
Well, here's a problem now, which is happening in today's society and bodybuilding and social media. You could have a fantastic bodybuilder, whether they're male or female, and they're posting pictures online, and everybody's going how fantastic they look and how great they look, and they'll thrive on that. Yeah. Then all of a sudden, the diet goes backwards. They're still posting pictures where they're not looking as good, and then people criticize them. Yeah. And then that can affect them in a way where they turn around and go, their heads go, because they're so used to people saying you look fantastic. Now all of a sudden somebody says, obviously it's too strong a word, you look a bag of shit.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, how can I look a bag of shit? I've put in 15 years. So then they rather than listening to the coach and saying, stop worrying about what people say, only worry about what I'm saying. You only have to look now. Let's go back to your Phil Heaths, your Flex Lewis's, all them names I'm mentioning now, right? 4 or 5 weeks out from whatever show they're doing, they come off all the socials.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? For 2 reasons. 1, because they've got knuckled down to the show. 2, so there's no distraction, there's no negativity. And it's negativity because no matter how tough you are mentally, everybody suffers from negativity. If you're looking awesome and the whole world you're looking awesome, only one person has to say you look shit and you doubt yourself. You know that. Only one person. Oh. Only one person has to say, nah, I looked better last year. And then your head's gone.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's it's a lonely spot to be. And then, it's
a lonely spot to be.
Like the self-restriction and the food, or like the disordered ways of thinking and eating and happen from, essentially I never ever blame bodybuilding for some of the things that have occurred mentally for me. What I do is I see that I care a hell of a lot about my journey. I got to the point after comparing for a number of years, it was like, until I won a show, I didn't really feel like a real bodybuilder. I thought,
no, I get that. Me too.
Yeah.
But I think bodybuilding, for me, right, not for everybody, but for me, has done more good than bad because it's taught me self-discipline. It's taught me camaraderie because bodybuilding, when I competed, backstage were brilliant. We'd lend each other tans and stuff like that. It's probably one of the only sports where you'd go on stage and there's 20 of you and you'd all get cheered. Whereas if you go to a football match, either Leeds or you're Manchester, you know what I mean? You're getting booed. Even if you're the best player on the pitch, you're getting booed.
Yeah.
But nobody's, you know what I mean? So it's a family-run sport. That, you know what I mean? Yeah, obviously, nowadays, it's a little bit different because nowadays people can criticize people online and stuff, right? But for me, if you're going to put some content on and you're willing for people to give you the thumbs up, but you can't take the thumbs down, get off. Yeah. Right? Because not everybody's going to tell you look fantastic. You know what I mean? I had friends around me in the early days said, oh, you were ripped off, Pat. You look fantastic today. The judges were shy. And all I needed was one friend, to be honest with me, and said, you're shit today. You deserve to get beat.
True. It's so true.
That's all I needed. It's all right surrounding yourself with yes men. Because let me tell you about them yes men. Them yes men are the first one to turn on and say, you looked awesome today, Pat. You got ripped off. But as soon as they go home and they're on phones with their mates, they turn and say, Pat was shit today. Pat was shit today. You can tell your friend, but you can't tell me.
Yeah.
So, and that's what's happening in this sport. That's what makes this sport poisonous. There's not enough people that are willing to be honest, but there's also not enough athletes that is willing to accept that they may be at that stage in the career not as good as they think they are. Very easy. Listen, I know people, you know people that have jumped coaches, and no matter how many coaches have jumped, they still don't win. So then, when is that penny going to drop that? It's not my coaches. It's me. Yeah. Take a look at yourself.
And sometimes you
take a look at yourself.
Step back, like you mentioned earlier, not prepping all the time, being able to, to go into like an enjoyment phase of life. And you said earlier, that actually the more happy you were with having things in your life as well, the physique responds. And we notice this in our clients, it's like if there's a really stressful week, scale weight goes up, inflammation produces, they feel more hungry, the sleep is restless, all of the things that physiologically it's like, okay, I'm not going to look as good this week as maybe the trajectory was saying, but you've got to sometimes look at, what's the environment, like we said at the start, what's your work life, what's your support network, are these people cheerleaders and just saying, oh, if you're really hungry, have some of this food, or these examples of people want to try and help, but let's face it, Pat, prep is hard, right?
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, I'll give you an example, right? It's like I say this to people that ask me questions. I say, what is winning, right, in bodybuilding? Is it the first place trophy, right? Is that winning? No, that's getting a result. This is my own experience, right? I've won shows, and any show that I've won, I'm happy because I've won, last man standing. Yeah. But I can go home and go, I won the lead show the same year I won the Britons. And I was happier winning the lead show than I was happier winning the Britons. And people couldn't understand. And I'm going to tell you why. So I'm putting it out there. When I won the Britons, everyone wanted to win the Britons. I won the Britons. I can say I won the Britons. In fact, if I want to be technical, I can turn and say I was the first heavyweight winner, because the first year that they put under 100 kilo and it went open from 90 to thingy was the year I won. Do you know what I mean? Sort of, I was the first heavyweight champion in UK for me. But I celebrated the win more at Leeds than I did the Britons. And when I told people, I went, well, you just won a qualifier. Why are you celebrating that more than the Britons? And I'll tell you why I did. Because it was more satisfying, because I'd never won my local show. Yeah. I'd gone to Manchester, I'd gone to Nottingham, I'd gone to Scotland, and I'd won qualifiers out of regions, but I'd never won my own local show. And my local show, right, I was always one of the best supported athletes. My fans were unbelievable, right? And I wanted to give them something for all the years of supporting me. And to win it on home soil was the best present, because I couldn't even remember my posing routine that day, because I forgot my routine. Because when I walked out on stage, because they'd waited years to see me get in really great shape and supported me even when I was looking shit, the roof came off when I actually got in shape. And I forgot my routine that I spent 100 quid on by a DJ getting it all done properly. And I forgot, because I was taken aback by the crowd's reaction to me. Do you know what I mean? It was, so winning for me, and it was the best shape I've ever been in. So winning for me is improving. So you can do third at one show, and then the next show you come first. You actually think it's an improvement. I've even heard Jay Cutler say it. He goes, sometimes I come second and third in the show and I was in better condition than when I actually won. Do you know what I mean? Yes. Now today it's driven differently. It's all a success thing. If you come for, even people now that do shows where there's only them on stage, they're actually saying they're winning or I won today. You didn't compete with nobody. Yeah. So the winning mentality is wrong, right? Wanting to train to be a winner is right. But winning, if you're not improving, you're going backward. Because if I do a show and I look awesome when I come third, and then I do a show and I come first in a few weeks' time, right, and I win, I'm going to think I'm better than I am. So I'm going to turn up to the next show and go, all I've got to do is match this condition, and I'm going to be just as good as the one when I last on the show. But next thing I know is people that turn up that are in a lot better condition than me, and I just got to show that I just happen to be the best on that day, not best. So look at your physique rather than your placings, right? Because placings don't give you no guideline. Do you know what I mean? If you're improving every year, right, whether you're first, second, third, or you start at the bottom. Prime example, Ronnie Coleman. Before he come 8 times Miss Olympia, everybody beat him. Everybody beat him. And I mean, everybody beat him, like including Lee Priest. You know what I mean? So he didn't just come into the scene. This greatest bodybuilder of all time was a freak of nature, got beat by everybody, right? First Olympia, I think it was did not finish. Then there was a 15th place. Then there was a 9th place. Then straight from 9th to first, right? And then never lost again, right? Until he got to the back end of his career, right? So at the end of the day, right, focus on improving. Winning will come afterwards. If you're good enough, winning will come afterwards.
For sure. And if you stick with a coach, we know we learn the physique. So we can help people grow. And if you get that opportunity to do these multiple phases, it's super fucking cool, because when you look at like an example of your body weight in your first off season, and then you hit the same body weight, wow, I look so much, like all of these things that come from the long journey. But I think that often, it looks pretty cool to do a prep. It looks pretty, maybe even easy on social media, depending on who you follow. You get into the prep and you think, holy fuck, you've never done anything like it before. And the mental toughness that you need to build needs to come from a solid, why are you actually doing this? If I, say to someone, why do you want to prep? Why are you going to compete? There needs to be a solid answer, I believe.
You make a good point. Do you know the worst clients, and I can say this when it's controversial, the worst client in the world is somebody that, to a degree, and I'll explain it afterwards, that just listens to a coach.
Yeah.
Right? They're the worst clients. And I'll tell you why they're the worst clients. You know, when you were at school, when you were a kid, and you got better grades. The people that got the better grades was not just the ones that were paying attention. The people that got better grades were the one going, Miss, why is that then? Why is that then? Why is it that then? Why? So then the teacher then explains to you, right? And then, you know, so once you go home and you start learning things, when you learn things and you want to learn more, you ask your teacher. So let me translate to coaching now. So if I've got a client, right, and the client asks me questions, the more that client learns about his or her body, the more I can help them. But when you've got these coaches that are just saying, well, stick to the plan, that's it. I want a client that's going to come up to me, if it's a woman, and turn around and say, I've gone 7 pounds, I put 7 pounds on, and I've stuck to your diet. And I'll go, are you on your menstrual cycle? Yeah, actually I am. Well, that's the reason you put 6 pounds on. But some coaches will ask that question, so then they'll put them on a diet and they'll lose 5-6 pounds, and they end up looking like that. And the actual 5-6 pounds that they needed to lose, they didn't need to lose. It would have come off as soon as they come off the cycle. Do you know what I mean? So the more information you give to somebody about your body who knows what they're talking about, like such as yourself, the more then you can be even more productive for them. Yeah, you can work without anything I'm telling you, but you're going to hit a brick wall. The more information, so Kerry always used to say to me, learn about your body, Pat. Ask me questions, don't be scared. The more you learn about your body, so when you ask me a question, I know why it's happened because you've already told me how your body works. That's right. Did you have an argument with the missus yesterday, Pat? Oh yeah, I've been sulking all week. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? The endorphins have gone down. I've got the stress. It's stress.
Yeah.
It may sound stupid, but I know a lot of bodybuilders that stepped on stage because I've been backstage with them that I know wasn't going to do anything just purely on their body language, no matter how good they looked, because they wasn't in the right frame of mind. World-class athletes have to be in the right frame of mind to perform.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why you get world-class athletes that get beat when they don't prepare correct, because somebody is going to be better on that day. And then you know how many bodybuilders have come off stage and thought, how does Pat want to beat me? He's shit, I'm better than him. Pat want to beat you today because he did his homework and you didn't. Yeah. Have you got a better physique than Pat Warner? Yeah, probably you have, but not today. You haven't. And these people are scared to, you know what I mean, do that. Be honest with yourself. You know what I mean? Be honest with yourself. And I've been honest with myself over the years. Judges used to say to me, hey, it's a true story. This I never see you not smiling, Pat. You come fifth today. Why are you smiling? Aren't you disappointed? No, because I know that I've got 4 places to improve on, so I'm taking it as a positive. Am I upset that I lost? Yeah, but that's all it is. I lost a show. Didn't lose anything else. I'll go away and I'll work a bit harder. Yeah. And then I know some judges that used to come up to me and say, you know, when it was close, Pat, right? And this is a bit controversial, but you know it's true in bodybuilding. I put you second or third because I knew you would handle it better than the other guy.
Yeah, I mean,
because I was a good loser.
Go on.
Because I was a good loser, and it does go on. But I didn't mind being a good loser because being a good loser teaches you how to win. You know, some people can't cope with losing. I remember when Mike Tyson lost his world title fight when he lost against Buster Douglas. He got knocked to the floor and he was looking for his gum shield. He didn't know what to do because it never happened to him before. He'd never been hurt before. You know, and if you've never been hurt before, you don't know how to respond to being hurt. So I'd rather be hurt than I build a shell. All right, so that's what being hurt feels like. Oh, that's what being punched feels like. That's what losing feels like. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Building character. You know yourself. Some of the winners in this sport, right, end up losing in the long run because they can't cope when they do get a loss. I'm glad that when I started in my career, everybody beat me. Everybody beat me. Well, that taught me that there was a lot to learn. You know what I mean? I never once went home thinking, shit, I've lost today. Federation's crap. They don't know what they're talking about. Even though my friends used to say that to me and say, you got ripped up today. I still personally could look at myself and go, yeah, Pat, you could have placed higher, but were you happy with your diet? And I'd go, you know, at the 12-week diet, I probably stuck to it 70%. So 25% of my diet, I took the piss. Who's that on then? That's not on my coach. That's on me. There's never a time I've ever walked away from a stage in my whole entire career when I didn't place or didn't win, where I could turn around and say, I've done everything today. I could always walk away and say, yeah, I remember me and my missus were arguing for about 2 weeks and I just fucking didn't have the eye. I didn't train. I went through the motions. There's never one time when I can turn around and say, the only time I could actually turn around and where I was happy was when I won the lead show and won the Britons, because I knew I did everything that I could do. And I thought, whoever beats me is going to have to be good today. And I can live with that because you can't be the best at everything. I turned up at the Britons in unbelievable condition. And if I'd have come ninth, I'd have still been happy because it's the best I've ever looked, right? The fact that I won was the bonus. But my first win was being the best I could ever be, because I could have walked off stage in 8th place and I know people would have still come to me and gone, fucking hell, Pat, you looked awesome today. I've never seen you look like that.
Yeah.
That's a bigger victory than getting first. And that's going back to what we said, transparency. If you can be transparent and honest with yourself, you're always going to improve. Some people don't like to hear the truth. You know what I mean? It's like you will not get certain clients. I tell you now, Sarah, a lot of people work with you because you're too honest. You're not going to tell them things they want to hear. And because they can see your social media page and they go, oh, she's very honest. She's very forthright. I like people to fucking bullshit me. I like people to tell me they're better than. So they won't work with you. So they won't work with you. It's a fact, right? It's a unique trait that whether you've got 100 followers or 1 million, right? You're going to be the same person, right? I don't know how many followers you've got now because I don't count them because I just follow you. But I guarantee you, if your reviews went up today and you got 10 times more followers than you've ever had, I know that I could speak to you next week and it's still the same person I'm speaking to. The average people that I know on social media, when their followers go up, it's almost like that the attitude changes, like, I'm the man, you know what I mean? Or I'm the woman and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And that's why so many people now, like you see people blocking people, unfollowing people, because all of a sudden thinking, well, hang on a second, you didn't say that 3 weeks ago. You know, being genuine. When I was poorly and I was in my coma, I got messages from all over the world. And when I watched them, I couldn't believe how many people that liked and respected and loved me like that. So I just said to myself, it didn't swell my head. All it made me feel like, well, I must have done something right. And because I would have won, I used to go backstage and share my food and stand people up and give them a water. And other competitors says, fuck you doing? You're competing with him in fucking 5 minutes. Do you know what I mean? What are you doing? What are you helping him for? And because I was brought up properly, I'm going to say, well, hang on, when I step on that stage out there, it's got fuck all to do with me and him. Excuse my French. It's got everything to do with them judges are sat in front. So I was never one of them. So I was always right. And even now, some of the top bodybuilders who listen to this, they used to come up to me and says, Pat, I'm glad you're backstage because I know it's going to be run right. I know I'm not going to rush. I would say to the judges out front, I need another 10 minutes here. And they give me the 10 minutes because I earned that 10 minutes by organizing people right. You know what I mean? You know, I tell people, don't go wandering. Make sure I stay here. Or you can go wander. Or are you going somewhere? Yeah. Right. Give me your phone number. I'll take your phone number. Right here. You've got 10 minutes to get back. You know what I mean? I could do this. So I earned that respect. And on top of that, because I'd been in their shoes by stepping on stage, right, they knew, right, that whatever I said goes. So they respected me and I respected them. On all the shows that I did, you've been at them yourself when I've run backstage, run smooth because of the respect I've got for the athletes. But it's because I give them respect, right? You know, I earned my respect by giving them. Do you know what I mean? In the first place, you know, I'd shake the hand of the guy that beat me. Some guys go backstage after they come off stage and don't want to speak to anybody because of, oh, I won that. I got ripped off there. Well, if you won that show, why are you mad with the guy that beat you? Why are you not mad with the judges and go speak to them? Why did I lose it? But a lot of them come backstage and actually want to fight with a guy that had nothing to do with, you know what I mean? Nothing to do with them winning. Hang on a second. The judge put me in front of you. I did say to a judge I should win. And then you get all the excuses. Yeah, it's because that judge trains at his gym. Or yeah, because he's a sponsored athlete. Okay, I've heard it all.
I had it once. Actually, the show that I qualified for the Universe at, and I won and got the judges' feedback and I got the qualification. And you know, I couldn't believe that I qualified to, you know, go to Mexico and everything. And the girl that came second, she was fucking throwing her toys out the pram. She was there, why didn't I win? Why didn't I win? And all of her friends started sort of chiming in, and I thought, fucking hell, I
Yeah.
thought, you know, I've just been announced the winner here. Like, you've come second, right? And, you know,
Yeah.
it's the judge's decision is final. And she even went to the show organizer a few weeks later and said, why did Sarah come before me? And he said, there was 1 point between you. Somebody's got to win. Sarah won.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, that on the day you're getting judged. And another thing I sometimes talk about is that the judges don't know if you've had the hardest prep in the world. If,
100%.
you know, whatever's happened to you, all they're doing is looking at your physique and they're saying, you know, this is the placement. Yes, there is politics and what have you, you know.
Yeah.
Aside from that, the judges don't know what you've been through. And I think feeding into what you said about, you know, when you did stick to the plan 100%, you won because you had
Yeah.
confidence to go, I
Yeah.
fucking nailed it. And then the judges
Yeah.
see that, don't they?
Of course I do. And yeah, it reflects in your performance, doesn't it? You know, every judge who was on that panel knows when somebody's worked hard, right? Because your physique reflects on that.
Yeah.
My problem with certain competitors backstage, if they come second to me, they're going to the judges. How did Pat beat me?
I know, yeah.
Instead of going to the judges, where did I go wrong today? Because I thought I had it. Well, Pat had you on this and Pat had you that. They're calling my name like I've got some control over it. Do you know what I mean? So, but that says a lot about them because a true competitor wouldn't kick off in front of the winner because you're taking a gloss off what's happened. It's not your fault. Listen, I'd lose shows and I'd go back and I'd go, awesome today. Kick my ass, awesome. And they'd be like, why is Pat saying that to me? Because they know that if the shoe was on near the foot, they wouldn't say that. And I used to love it, say it to people that, and you wouldn't say it back. That was something I used to love, have fun doing. Going up to people who beat me and saying they were awesome, knowing that if the shoe were on the other foot, they'd be going to complain, why is Pat beat me? So it's you know what I mean? And that's when you're comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah, and where's the
It's a subjective sport. Do you know what I mean? 3 women can walk past me and I can say, I've never seen 3 of the most beautiful women in my life. My mate could turn and say, every single one of them are ugly. Are you blind?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Everyone has like, you know, of course the judges have training, but you're sort of drawn as a person. It might be that you're naturally drawn to someone with darker hair or lighter hair or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
There's certain things. So that does come into it a touch. But also, you know, if you're resenting the process, if you're thinking you should win and all of this, like you mentioned earlier, like toxicity, if that's in you and around you, the judges can see that a lot of the time. I've judged, and it's like you can see when someone's enjoying it, and you know,
of course you can.
hard compared to someone that walks on and doesn't even look at the judges until they get to the front. You know, it's like snap. You go past the curtain, you're there to fucking perform. You've worked for this, and then people come on stage and they look like, you know, they're fucking hating it. It's really hard to watch, you know.
I think having a team around you is very important, right? And a good team. I know there's a lot of bodybuilders now who have got supplement companies as sponsors. Yeah. And they have no relationships with their sponsors. All they want is that tub of protein so they can, you know, a lot of them don't even believe in the products they're taking. They're just saying, it saves me, right, buying it, paying money out of my pocket. If somebody's willing to give me for free, I used to know certain bodybuilders back in the day that used to be sponsored by certain companies, right? Get them for free, sell their products to go buy CMP products. Yeah. I swear to God. They had a free sponsorship and they'd sell it to the guys in the gym and then they'd go and buy CMP. I've seen myself at CMP for years. And you've got to have a team around, and that's why I don't be like, I'm with Time 4. Now, I've been with Time 4. I was with CMP for a lot of years, and obviously when Kelly sold it and kind of after that I left. But Paul Smith was with CMP for a lot of years, and Paul Smith is one of my best friends. You know, Time 4. I believe in the products. I believe in Time 4 products. I know about the products.
Very good.
We can be up for scrutiny. The products I believe in. We've got Brian Batchelor, who's one of the best minds in this country, and anybody who knows him will tell you that. So I don't just take a product because it's a sponsorship. You know what I mean? I believe in the products that I use, and there's too many people out there that don't believe in the products you use. But it's like you build a relationship with somebody. It's like, look at all the best athletes at once upon a time, back in the day, if you Google it, always used to be sponsored by CMP, right? But two things Kerry used to do. The only people he sponsored at CMP back in the day were British champions, right? And the reason he sponsored British champions is because they had to work, right, to be justified to have a sponsor. I'm not just going to sponsor you because you're my mate. Kerry had loads of mates. He could have sponsored 1,000 people. You had to go on stage, improve, be somebody, and then you have to earn the right to be sponsored. Now you don't have to earn the right to be sponsored. You know, if you can give followers, you'll get people saying, right, I'll sponsor you, right, if you just put something on your social media page. Yeah. So you don't have to believe in a product. But I believe, you know, I'm not promoting Time For in here because I don't need to promote Time For, because Time For is an unbelievable company, right? And anybody who takes it, don't take any other products. You know what I mean? But people like Paul Smith, this man has give hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds, just like Kerry Kayes did, to bodybuilding and got nothing in return. Very few people can say that now. It's a business now, right? He puts the athletes first. He puts the product first. He would rather make a product that he takes a loss on financially, as long as it's correct, as long as it's the right product, than to turn on and say, I'll suffer on quality so I can earn an extra 100 quid here, an extra 100 quid there. And like say, I'm 59 years of age now. I'm 60 next year, right? I'm still a sponsored athlete at 59 years of age. Not many people can say that. But you know why I'm still a sponsored athlete? Because I'm not just an athlete that endorses a product. I'm an athlete that works, right? So I promote Time For. I travel up and down the country. I've been to Land's End, John O'Groats. I've done thousands of miles because it's a product I believe in. But the reason I'm doing that is because I want to justify my sponsorship. You know what I mean? I want to pay them back the same way. The thing, because you think about it, you get to a certain age in any sport, and that's it. You're done, right? I'm 60 years of age next year, and I've had a sponsorship since I was about 32, 33. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I've justified it every year. I've been sponsored for 25 years, so I could sit back and go, Pat Warner, that's why they sponsor me. No, my sponsor sponsors me because I still work harder than anybody else, right? And too many people are privileged now. You know, these podcasts, I want people to take from these podcasts is, you know what I mean? If somebody gives you something, right, you don't deserve, go out and make sure that you deserve it. Do you know what I mean? It's like all these top bodybuilders that are around now, and it's like, I'll give you an example. One of my favorite bodybuilders that are around now is Sarah Bradley, right? She's female. Yes. Phenomenal. And you know why I like the girl? I think I've met her only once, but I probably never even spoke to her. But what I love about this girl is I've never seen anybody work as hard. And not just that, I've never seen anybody that's taken the stick she's took on social media and still been true to herself. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, right, she's human, right? And no doubt certain things that will be said about her will hurt her, right? But she's got more supporters out there than doubters, because when you see somebody like that puts in a shift, the amount of respect she'll earn is far more than the trolls, right? Because she's transparent. Nobody can't say that physique that she has is genetic. Because I remember when she used to play football, when she was thinking, she has built that physique from scratch.
You get
right?
skinned.
And we're talking male, female. She's up there with anybody that I've ever seen in terms of work ethic. Now, to me, you say that about a young 20-plus-year-old girl, says it all, because I've experienced some of the top athletes in the world and the sport at the highest level. This girl, listen, you just keep doing you, Sarah, man. You're brilliant. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Men could learn from her. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Because a man gets trolled and he's straight away firing back on social media. Look what this dickhead's put about me, that she suffers in silence, goes away. But you can never tell in a physique that she's suffering, because she always improves. So to do that and to have a thick skin ain't easy, right? Because she'll have a down days just like him. And she admits when she has a down days. And she's transparent, and that's why she's respected. These people that want to portray that their lives are fantastic and everything's good and have got all these followers, Tell the truth.
Yeah.
Come forward and tell people you're not as good as you say you are, or you're not as comfortable as you say you are, or you're not as happy as you say you are. We're going to have more respect for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why me and you are on here. We want to reach some people. Yeah, we can talk about 6 meals a day, and we can talk about how building your biceps and stuff like that. How many people on podcasts are doing that, right? We're doing these podcasts because we know every year and every day people are suffering, and there's nobody that is willing to have that conversation to say, we're here. And that's what we're doing. Go do your glamorous podcasts and talk about how big Ronnie's arms are and stuff like that. There's a place for that in bodybuilding. But in this current climate, with how the world's changed over these last few years, there needs to be more people like you doing a podcast, speaking to people like me and reaching people out there.
Because it goes far beyond, even what we've spoken about today with, even when we look at, the PED side and the use and the mental health impacts from that. The controlling of your food and the impact of that, how you can maybe, have a skewed relationship with the exercise, how you can do a prep and suddenly you've got divorced because you're a bodybuilder and you don't give a shit anymore. Every single area of
I've lost a lot in this sport,
yeah, can be affected. And I think that sometimes it can be, maybe it unleashes something in you that you're like, well, actually, I'm really loving this and this is my path. But when you actually hear the podcast that you mentioned, I think sometimes when I certainly was in this realm of like, I'm fucking working really hard and whatever, I'd listen and I'd think, yeah, I'm like them. It's good to be ruthless. It's good to be a cunt, basically. And it almost fueled it in the wrong way. And it's like, and that again, it's like, yeah, you can be ruthless. We can all be fucking horrible to people. But one day it catches up when you're alone, and it's because it's been fueled by toxic people.
Well, people who have influence in any sport, I've got influence in this sport, I'm respected, and that's why I'm prepared to give it back. But I'll give you an example. I remember maybe 8-9 years ago when Tyson Fury's still around now, but when he was messing around, when he'd been a straight sausage, right, like he likes to say, right? Everybody hated him. Everybody hated him. Everybody hated him. But then he suffers. He balloons up to 28 stone. He comes back, right? He speaks about his mental health. And now he's one of the world's loved sportsmen. If you watch At Home with the Furies on Netflix, I think there's 6 episodes. I've watched every single one of them. And 80% of his conversation, even though he's the world's best boxer, right, in every episode is about his mental health and how he's overcome it, right? And he's got more respect now, right, as a human being than he does as a boxer, right? Because somebody who's at the top of the sport, worth in millions and millions and millions of pounds, can still turn around and say, I've been suicidal. I've wanted to end it all. All this money in the bank means shit to me if I feel shit. Do you know what I mean? So if you're getting people who are influenced that can admit to that, it's a great thing. Do you know what I mean? Somebody that can bear his soul. Do you know what I mean? The podcast that we're doing, I don't care if one person watches or 1 million. Our podcasts are phenomenal because we're giving back to a community that desperately needs it at this moment. Desperately needs it, right? Let's start from COVID to now, right? So before 2020, I'd never heard of any bodybuilder, no matter what PED they took, whatever, dropping dead. Never heard anything, right? And since 2020 to now, out of all the bodybuilders that have died, for whatever reasons, 60-70% of them that have died is either suicide or mental health.
It's heartbreaking.
Only a few might have been medical conditions to do with over excessive whatever, but minor, right? So that is why these are important, and that's why we'll keep doing these. I mean, the first one we did, we got fantastic feedback, right? Because I think when you're respected, you don't have to be the best at what you do. I've been in bodybuilding a long time and I've reached some high levels, but there's been loads of bodybuilders that have reached higher levels than me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember Ernie Taylor once saying, right, great bodybuilder, Ernie Taylor, great friend of mine. We were sponsored by CMP. I was an amateur and and he was a professional, right? And I remember I was doing these magazine articles and all this kind of stuff. And Ernie come up to me and he goes, "You're not an amateur bodybuilder, you're a professional, right?" He said, "The only reason you're an amateur bodybuilder because you haven't won your pro card. But in everything you do, the way you conduct yourself," and coming from a guy that's placed in the top 10 Olympia, it meant the world. So I never saw myself then as I want to win the Olympia. I thought, if I can, one of my greatest bodybuilding people that I love in this country and in sport can come up to me when I'm thinking I'm below him and big me up, right? It's ridiculous. And this might be a little bit controversial, but I'll tell you a story about bodybuilding in general. Like, in terms, we're talking culturally now, right? We're talking culturally. White guys get shredded because of how they're built genetically. Most of the top black guys in the world, greatest bodybuilders of all time, we're all big, full muscle bellies. Do you know what I mean? Great balance. You don't if I was to say to you now, right, name me 10 skinned, peeled, shredded glutes to the bone black bodybuilders in the history of bodybuilding, you struggle to name. I could tell you to name 50 bodybuilders who are white who get absolutely peeled, and you could name them like that. Genetically, we're just built different. So this is a joke I'm going to tell. I won the UK's, sorry, the qualifiers, Britain qualifiers, and Ernie Taylor were there because I was sponsored by CMP. This is 2009 at Leeds Town Hall. And he come on stage to present the trophies, right? And he whispered in my ear, he went, "That's white man condition."
I love your cheeky face when you say that.
True story. And when he first said it, because obviously I didn't know what he meant at the time, just one year, is Ernie dissing me? Do you know what I mean? And he could see my face. And when we got backstage, he said, "No, Pat, it's the biggest compliment I could pay you because black guys don't get shredded. I had shredded glutes, man. You could put 3 fingers in my cheekbones. I was peeled. So because black guys don't let me get like that, and I did. When he said white man condition, it was a massive, massive, massive compliment. Do you know what I mean? So for somebody who's competing at the highest level, most top pros that give you your trophies on stage, they'll hold your hands up, do the picture, and walk off. They don't take time for you to speak. You know what I mean? They don't thingy. So if they are, they've acknowledged you, right? The great Flex Lewis, right? And he'll back me up on this. I remember when he was 15 years of age, 15, 16, something like that. He did a guest spot for Kerry Kayes, right? And Kerry goes, "This kid, he's going to be incredible." He come on stage. I have never seen a reception since like that initial. You get great reception for people like Ronnie Goes with the King and stuff like that. But for a kid that's not even done his career at 15, 16 years, walked on stage and everybody knew, and he just brought the house down because he wasn't massive at 16, Flex. It was how professional he was. It was how he transitioned in his poses. Do you know what I mean? It was just, he had a great set of legs and calves because that's genetic, but it was just the way. And I remember saying to him, "Listen, I am telling you, you are going to go to the very, very top of bodybuilding." And this is before he had a great physique. He had a nice physique for a 16-year-old. But I never said that because of his physique. I said it because of the way he presented himself, the way he could hold a crowd at 16 and stuff like that. And then I met him a few years later. He's a good friend of mine. And I met him a few years later. And he remembers the conversation. And he remembers it. And he even put on one of his social media pages, and it's a true story, this. I remember when Pat believed in me when a lot of other people didn't. Do you know what I mean? And that's incredible. And this is one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time. So for me, they're better than any trophies. You know what I mean? When your peers acknowledge you, you know what I mean? That means you've done something good in the sport. That's better than winning any trophy, isn't it? Right? Trophies are trophies. Listen, I've won probably about 100 trophies. I couldn't even tell you where they are now. So that's how much they mean. Do you know what I mean? That's how much they mean. Do you know what I mean? But yet, when somebody that you respect and you hold in high regard takes time out of their schedule to actually say something to you and that you've touched their lives, it means something. So that's why I'm here with you today, because I want to be able to do that to other people.
Yeah. And it's being proud of the impact you can have. I think that sometimes people pursue the sport, maybe they do quite well. You mentioned earlier, like you could do a really good season, right? And then suddenly everything's all good, and maybe you've got some followers. Maybe you start to get a little bit led with ego, and we've all been there, right? You know, at times.
Yeah, 100%.
But then maybe, you know, you start to distance yourself from the people that did believe in you at the start. And, you know, you maybe get those stepping stones that people offered you off their own back. You know, we've been there, got people, and it's sad to see. And I think that, you know, sometimes it's quite personal, and it hurts almost when you really build a bond with someone, whether that's a client or a friend or an acquaintance or whatever. But I think that anyone listening, if you are, you know, helping someone on their path, whether you're a coach and maybe you have a client leave, it's super important to understand what your value set is and what your morals are, and to act with integrity. And like you say, build respect, because it's people that will be watching you. You don't even know they're watching, but you're gaining respect by being a good person, right?
100%. 100%. I couldn't put it better myself. I mean, for me now, I've been in the industry a long time, 30 years, so I do have a certain level of respect. And I know if I wanted to work hard, I could have 10 times as many followers that I have. I know that if I wanted to work harder and take more clients on, I could comfortably earn a few grand a week without even breaking a sweat. I refuse to do these things because I know I'm giving more to people than they'd give to me. Money's not important to me. You know, if it comes at a risk of where you're being used, do you know what I mean? You know, for social status, right? I turn clients down on a regular basis, even when I'm struggling to pay bills, because I know that I can't just work with somebody because it's just money, you know, because in this sport, and what you give and what you get from this sport, because of how emotionally attached you are, you want to have the same level of respect going both ways. You know, don't get me wrong, if you're the coach that wants to go out there and earn 10 grand a month and it's about money, I'm not knocking you. I'm not criticizing you. Fair play to you. But for me, I build relationships, right? I want to have a relationship with my client. I want to have a relationship with somebody I'm working with. If they're just doing it for money, the relationship's going to break down, innit? Because at the end of the day, they're always going to say, you're part one, I don't care who you are, I can buy and sell you. I'll just offer somebody 50 quid a month more and I'll go with them. Do you know what I mean? So what good are you to me then if there's no relationship? There has to be a relationship, because a coach makes a lot of sacrifices. Sorry, darling, we can't go out today because I've got to drive to Nottingham because my client's competing. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, we can't go on holiday this week because next week my client does the British Championships. Do you know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? So you build, whether you want to meet it or not, you're building relationships. If you're in it for the money, and that's what you're all in it for, there's a place. But don't go on social media and say, I build relationships, I treat all my clients the same, and it's not true, right? So, you know, that is why, maybe we're not the only people that are doing it, but this is why podcasts like this are so important, so important. You know what I mean? I could do a podcast every other week with friends I've got in the industry, different people. I've chose you, and I've always chosen you because I've liked you from day one, just how honest you are, the questions you ask, the respect that you show. Do you know what I mean? There's not enough of us about. So when you're in an elite unit of people, do you know what I mean? You want to make that team bigger and spread it bigger, but you also want it to spread it bigger of just like-minded people. You don't just want the numbers so we look like we're a force. If there's 1,000 of us that are all like-minded, brilliant. But if there's only 10 of us that are only like-minded, that's brilliant as well. Yeah. And that's what people are scared to do. They want to be part of a gang. But I've been in gangs. I've worked the doors and stuff like that, and I've worked to some rough places. And you can have the gang on the door, and also a couple of villains come in. That gang soon goes. Yeah. You know, you've gone from 10 to 2.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You've gone from 10 to 2. And that's what happens now with these gangs or people that follow certain people on social media. When that person becomes unpopular, why am I following them anymore? Nobody's interested in them anymore.
Yes.
It happens.
For sure.
It happens.
Don't believe everything you see on social media, guys. I mean,
exactly.
Sometimes, Pat, I mean, you compliment my content, but sometimes I think, am I being too honest? But no, I'm the same as you. If I reach one person talking about something that I struggle with, or something I've experienced, or what happened, you know, sometimes I get 5 likes on a post, but I couldn't give a shit because those 5 people, I hope, are 5 quality followers that are gaining something from my content. We've spoken before about, you know, we're not in it for followers. I didn't even know you could buy followers, and I'm like, what?
Yeah. Well, if you go and say like somebody that's got genuine followers, like the Rock, who's got hundreds of millions, just read some of the comments that he gets. They're not, the people are never going to meet him. The people that are just kissing his ass. The people that are actually commenting, he's not even reading them. You know what I mean? 9 times out of 10, it's somebody that controls their social media page, right? So they won't even read them. But every now and then, what they'll do is they'll come up and they'll go, "Hi guys, thanks for all the love," and it, because they've got to do that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking, why am I following you, right? If you don't give a shit about me, listen, I follow Flex Lewis, I follow Matt Ryan, every celebrity that I follow, what people call celebrities. If I post something, they will directly message me and saying, "Hope you well, Pat. Thanks for that." Yeah. They don't always go on social media. People will go around and go, "Oh, I saw that somebody put a comment on the other day, or I didn't know you knew this kind of person." I said, "It's my mate. It's not a celebrity." Do you know what I mean? I'd rather them direct message me than put something on social media, because I'm not looking for validation that I know somebody. If you've got a friend, I don't need 1,000 people to know you're my friend. Yeah. I only need you to know that you're my friend.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether you're the biggest celebrity in the world or you're nobody, I only need to know you, that I'm your friend. That's all I need. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? It's so true. So all these people that are following false idols, do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. If you're inspired by certain celebrities, and you follow them for the right reasons, I'm a thumbs up for that as well. But there's a lot of people that just a sheep that just follow. All right, so all right, yeah, I'm following a Rock and stuff like that. They don't give a shit about you.
It's crazy because we also, you know, not even just comparing to other bodybuilding competitors, you know, we see or what have you, but we start to almost mimic like famous people that are millionaires. Yeah. I mean,
100%.
People can spend money they don't have because they want something.
Everybody spends money they don't have, not people. I know people that live in flats that are shitholes. They've got 50 grand cars in the driveway. Yeah. So when they go to a gym and pull up with the Rolex and the 50 grand car, people think they're living life. Go on by themselves and they still live in a mum's frigging basement.
Yeah.
An image, what is an image nowadays? What you want to tell somebody that you're living life really at a high level, but as soon as you go home and behind closed doors, you're crying your eyes out like a baby. Yeah. How does that? You can't tell me that's not going to impact your mental health when you're portraying how good your life is, but really behind closed doors, it's rubbish. You can't keep up a pretense. That's why you can go out and do it, but when you go home, you can't keep. You just collapse and cry and stuff like that. Surely that's got to harm you more than it's going to help you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And that's what we're trying to do here. This is what this is all about. Do you know what I mean? And like you said, whether it's one person we reach or 500, you know what I mean? At least we're transparent and getting a message across. But it's getting, like I said, I've never had so many feedback messages from a podcast than the one I did with you, from people who will direct message me and don't want other people to know who they are, but they say, "Listen, Pat, we're glad that you've done it," because I can come forward to you and say, "I felt that 2 years ago, but I thought I was the only one that felt it. I'm a well-respected bodybuilder in the industry, but if I show that on social media, people will stop following me or they'll think I'm weak." So there's a lot of reasons why you think Rock don't have bad days? You know what I mean? Of course he does. Do you know what I mean? Will you see that side? No, you won't, because he's got to portray an image. But at the end of the day, what validation are you getting from following him when he don't care about you or doesn't even know about you? Do you know what I mean? You know, when you're feeling down, are you going to send the Rock a message and saying, "Rock, could you give me a shout out because I'm suffering from mental health?" You think he's going to even respond to that? Let's keep us idols real. Let's respect people. And I like films, I like football, I like boxing, so I'm going to follow my idols. Yeah. But let's keep it real that when we want help, let's reach out to the people that is actually going to pick up a phone or answer a direct message. You know what I mean? Let's keep that part real. The rest, everybody lives in fantasy. We all have a bit of a fantasy, and there's not wrong with that. But let's keep the real world real and separate the fantasy. Some people don't know how to separate real from fantasy, and that's always going to happen. And there's nothing that we can ever do about that. But like I said, if we can get to a few people and get that message, I think we're doing great. And I think your podcasts, whether they're 10,000 or 100, you've got to keep doing them because you are reaching a lot of people. You'd be surprised. You know, I know you suffer from certain stuff yourself and you're coming back from an injury and you're moving to another country and stuff like that. Don't ever think that you're undervalued because you are very respected. I mean, people say to me, which humbles me all the time, that I'm very respected in the industry. And somebody like me who's respected in the industry respects you. That should tell you a little bit more about yourself, that you must be doing something good. Because if you wasn't, people like me wouldn't follow you, wouldn't be doing your podcasts. And you've been getting some great people. You've been getting some great people recently. Some great Stan Efferdry. I love Stan. Do you know what I mean? He's been unbelievable for a lot of years, and he's always talked sense. And now I was almost like, wow, that's a major coup. That's a major coup. So there, in that in itself. Anytime you have a dark day, switch your phone on, have a look at the people that you're reaching and say to yourself, I must be doing something right.
Thank you, Pat. I still can't believe it when, you know, Stan, like yourself, he's very complimentary of, you know, what Van Gogh is bringing. And when I talk to him, again, like yourself, we're on the same level. You know, we're talking about how we speak with clients and what we can offer as educators. And, you know, he always says, really love talking with you. You know, I'd love to do another podcast. And I think, what is happening? But I
know it's an old cliche, right? And I know they say it all now because everybody thinks it's a great word to say. But when you say it and you mean it, it's more important. Real does recognize real. It's that simple. It's that, and that's what it is. You know what I mean? He recognizes the fact that you're real. So, you know what I mean? Stan Efferdry could do podcasts with some of the most famous Joe Rogans of this world and all that kind of people. The fact that it shows in somebody like you, because you can say, this girl's real, right? I want to be on a podcast, you know what I mean? And show how real this girl is, because people like that are far more important than A-listers that have got to fill in a quota, that have got to say certain things. You know what I mean? You're coming from streets, you're coming from living a real life and wearing your heart on your sleeve. That has to be rewarded in some aspect. Do you know what I mean? And it's been rewarded by people wanting to come on your podcast, Sarah herself, other people. We almost recognize something in you to come on your podcast and bear. We're not just coming on talking shit, are we? We're not coming on talking about how big our biceps are or how many trophies we won. We're coming on bearing our souls and saying we've suffered. We don't want other people to suffer. And if they do suffer it, we're letting them know that they're not alone. These aren't podcasts where you're blowing smoke up my ass or you're massaging my ego. We're asking genuine questions and talking about real life situations. You know, I couldn't pay you a better compliment than the fact that I look forward to doing podcasts with you because I know that I'm going to get in touch with some people and reach out to them because I know that the person that's allowing me this platform is a real person that's enabling me to tell my truth and not be shy about it. Because there's other people that say, can I do a podcast with you? And I'll go, yeah, no problems, but we're not touching that subject. We're not touching that subject. We're not touching that subject. There's no subject that I won't cover with you. You know what I mean? Whether I cry myself to sleep at night or I've been hurt or I've been damaged or when I died and I came back, I've struggled to get back on my feet. Not scared, right? Because it's people that influence you that bring the best out of you. People improve people.
Yeah. We forget that sometimes when we get.
We forget that sometimes. Yeah. People improve people. We forget that sometimes. Yeah. We really, really do. We lose sight of that through all the madness and all the social media, thousands of followers and all the money you can earn, on all the places you can do. You know what I mean? You get so many people now, they train hard all year round, right? And they look really well. And all they're bothered about is my next holiday when I go to Ibiza, right? And I'm going to pop in champagne and stuff like that. But you know what I mean? I would rather somebody ring me up and say, listen, Pat, I need you. Can you come round? All that stuff on social media is shit. I'm just pretending to be something I'm not because I'm struggling. That's reward for people like us. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, at the end of the day, right, if I really want to listen, I'm not saying I'm the world's best. I'm not saying I'm going to followers, but I know I've got about 3,000 followers. I very rarely post, but if I wanted to build mine up, I could build it to more than 100,000. But I'm not interested because that's not what I'm on social media for. You know what I mean? I'm not on it for followers. I joined social media. I can be totally honest. I joined social media because I was a sponsored athlete. So I had to go on social media to promote my sponsors. You know what I mean? If I was never sponsored, I would have never gone on social media because I never had it. You know what I mean? I'm in my 50s now. I didn't have social media till I was probably 49, 50.
Love
Do you know
it.
what I mean? So I wasn't interested in it. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't interested, never was.
Yeah.
And I'm not interested now other than for the right reasons. You know what I mean? I'm not on to build no content. People who know me, who want to train with me, people who are close to me, can get in touch with me without going on social media. You know what I mean? So I can have a healthy client list without promoting myself on social media. I don't need to go on social media to promote a client list. You know what I mean? Because, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, right, after what I've been through and the fact that I'm still here, there's far more things that are important. Again, for all you people out there, if that's what you want to do, Pat Warner's not saying you're all a bunch of shits. Yeah. Each to their own. But what I'm saying, the reason why I'm on it and the reason people like you are on it is because we actually want to help somebody other than ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. And I've got to put the gratefulness back to you as well, because you remember on the first episode, you were the first person I came across as a first timer, never competed before.
I know, I remember that.
Your smile and just you making me feel like a person, and you know, like you said, you've touched on what I've sort of been through to get there, and that's not ever for anyone to feel sorry for me or anything like that. But remember, guys, you know, when you're in a bad spot and you do find genuine people, that connection that you have, don't take it for granted, but also, you know, see it for what it is, and lean on people if you can, and take support, because sometimes we think we're better off alone, and I've been there. You know, we've all been there in a prep where it's like nobody understands. At times it's appropriate, but
I get that.
I believe that, you know, at some point when you look around and no one's around you, you can end up in a lonely spot, and it's for maybe some trophies or, you know, the money or whatever it is. And I think sometimes it's bringing it back down to earth. And this is why we work so well together, because Pat is exactly the person he is today is when you meet him in person, and so am I.
Yeah, and for me, when I met you for the first time, the easiest thing for me to do is, I was a powerlifter when I first did a bodybuilding show. I was still powerlifting. I was still playing football at a high level, amateur-wise. And I was just winging the bodybuilding. I was always a bodybuilding fan. I wanted to get on stage. I looked totally out of place because I wasn't a muscular. I just had a very athletic physique. It was more like a swimmer's physique when I first stepped on stage. But obviously somebody saw potential in me. And I remember when I went backstage and I was the sore thumb, somebody come up to me and goes, "Mate, we all got to start somewhere. You belong here, right? So don't you worry about that, mate. You know what I mean? If this is what you want to do, you know what I mean?" And at the time, I mean, this is, I know you don't really hear about him much now, but it was a IFBB pro from Yorkshire called Ian Harrison, who was probably one of the greatest ever bodybuilders not to achieve what he should have achieved in the sport. And he saw potential in me, and he came up to me, and I went, because I knew who he was then, and I thought, wow, somebody like Ian Harrison coming up to me and saying I've got potential. But he also criticised me as well. He goes, "And them legs are shit. You must be running on them. You need to build them legs up." And when I had somebody come up to me like that for the first time, being that honest, because the way I was raised culturally, I never saw it as an insult. I saw it as learning. Do you know what I mean? So when I got to the stage where I got respected, I wanted to look out for them Pat Warners who were backstage, who felt out of place, who felt they didn't belong there. And I just put my arm around them and said, "Listen, if there's anything you need today, I got you."
I know.
Right. You know what I mean? So that's what it was. It's, you know, at the end of the day, it does really happen in real life. You know, it's, you know, if you're raised that way to pay it forward, you will pay it forward. So what I did with you, I just paid it forward. You stuck out like a sore thumb. You know what I mean?
Bloody hell. I was describing this earlier. The first time you step on stage, like you just said, like you practice and stuff, and then you think, fuck, I've forgotten everything I meant to do, and I'm standing here half naked.
Yeah, I mean, you got to understand, when I first competed as well, I'd been buying bodybuilding magazines because I've always been in the bodybuilding. You know, I didn't compete in the sport. I've always liked the muscular man and stuff like that, superhero kind of physique. I would stand on stage with people that I've seen in magazines. So I was thinking, I definitely don't belong here because I've never been in a magazine, and these guys have been in magazines. And when they were beat, it's different now, because when I was getting beat by these guys, I would actually get on stage buzzing. I've just been beaten by blah, blah, blah. You know, no, which bodybuilder is going to say that now? I've just been beaten by so-so. They hate losing. But then I would say I loved losing, but I didn't mind losing to the caliber of competitors I was competing against. They were brilliant. I was in brilliant company.
If you look
better.
better.
And just the fact. I used to say to my mates, guess what I competed with today? And they went, nah, you didn't. Did you come anywhere? No, I got my ass kicked, but I still stood on stage with them. You know what I mean? Who's going to say that now? Who's going to say that now on social media? Nobody. Yeah, nobody's going to say that. You've got to, you know what I mean?
That reminds me of when I did the universe, I got my pro card and you could go back on and compete as a pro. So I went back on. The woman that won, I thought, fucking hell, I can't believe I've even stood on a stage with her. Like, but I was like you, I was fucking buzzing. I was like, oh. And all off season, I had a photo of her that I'd screenshotted from social media. I just kept looking, I've got to grow, I've got to grow, I've got to grow.
Yeah.
And I think that that's certainly, for both of us, real knows real, but also doing the sport for the right reasons, progressing yourself. You're a genetic individual. You've got different backgrounds, all the levels of what you can commit to the sport. This all comes into it, but it can be so good to enjoy the sport for what it is. And I just hope that through our sessions as well, that people maybe get that reminder to be like, oh yeah, it's like two friends talking, well.
But I mean, obviously you're interviewing me, but I'm gonna throw a question out to you for once. You know what I mean? Before we wrap it up, in terms of importance, in terms of what you feel that you could give to the sport, or you would hope that people would take from it after you speak to them, what would it be?
This is a question I sometimes ask people.
Exactly.
So for me, as you touched on, coming from the streets and not having any sporting background at all. I went to you when you said you were okay at things, like I was always quite good at school. And then I went through a period of being addicted to drugs, alcohol, abusive relationships, things like that. And then I got into triathlon, had a back injury, didn't work out. Found bodybuilding, and what the message I always want to send is, yes, you've got to be realistic, but I worked day in, day out until I lifted that Miss Universe trophy, and every trophy I've lifted. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to win every show, because I haven't seen it. And sometimes coming second or even fifth, there's still fulfillment there if you or maybe you could put a bit more into the prep. But yes, there's genetic freaks, but remember that you've got to compete with the certain federations that suit the level you're at. Be realistic, but also enjoy it. Like what you can get, it's so good. But that message of, you don't have to be somebody to become somebody.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I think in terms of how I see you, right, my opinion on you would be all the clients that you have, all the people that you work with. What a strong point that you have is people feel comfortable with you. That's why you've had all these different people. Most of your clients will work with you because they like you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know loads of bodybuilders that work with top coaches and they can't stand them.
Yeah.
But they know they're good at what they do. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They know they're good at what they do. And that's massive, right? Mm-hmm. But if you can get somebody that you can work with who you genuinely like, that means you're always going to be honest with them. That means you're always going to have a female bodybuilder or a male bodybuilder who's always going to be honest with you because they like you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not because they're paying you right, well, fuck it, tell her what I want. I don't give a shit what I tell her, right? Because they genuinely like you, and not just because they like you, because they know what you say is for the best. You genuinely mean it, and you genuinely care. Now, when it's like if you go to a priest and give him confession, and you don't see the priest, right? You know that priest is not judging you. That's why that whole thing's there, that curtain's there, so you can't see them. You know they're not judging you. You know they don't give a shit if you're black, white, pink, or whatever. But you also know that they're actually going to give their honest assessment on the truth you tell them. You know what I mean? It's weird how you lie to your best friend, but you'll be honest to a priest that you've never met in your life. It's crazy, isn't it?
For sure.
And the reason you'll do that is because they convince you that they're not going to judge you, no matter how bad you are. You know, priests have taken confessions of murderers, rapists, pedophiles, great people, and they'll turn around and go, now you're a pedo, so I'm going to talk shit to you. You're still going to be honest and say, listen, you know, I'll still forgive you. You're owning it. You're admitting it. And what you do, right, is you're very humble in the fact that you come on these podcasts and you do these podcasts, and you know the people that you're speaking to genuinely believe that everything you're saying is true. You know what I mean? We've both watched podcasts or YouTube interviews, and you can have some famous celebrities, and you know the interview was actually just blowing smoke up their asses or kissing their ass. Oh, I can't believe I've got Michael Jackson on today. I'm going to tell him all kinds of shit. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes people, you know, not all the time, don't get me wrong, but sometimes people just want you to be honest.
Yeah, and also bodybuilding ones, you know, you want to feel part of the conversation, because
of course.
I used to listen and I'd think, these people are worlds above me, and I'm listening, and it almost made me feel worse. And I always remember that, you know, I actually felt almost like, oh, I'm not good enough, because these bodybuilders are talking about advanced techniques and like, what are they talking about? And for me, certainly it's having that relatability, but also I'm happy to talk about any of the struggles like yourself. And this is us coming together. It's
I know a lot of world-class athletes, whether in football or thingy, or even if I've just watched them on YouTube and podcasts. Yeah. And when a common question is, who is your favorite player? And most athletes will turn around and say, if they're boxing, it'll be Muhammad Ali or whatever. If it's a footballer, they'll go for the greatest footballer of all time. But then when you ask them another question and turn around and say, especially if it's football, who is your favorite teammate? It's not always the best footballer in the team that they choose. Yeah. They choose the ones that inspire them the most. Like, it might be, see that guy, he gets no credit on television because he just does his work, but he'll never let me down. He's always there when I need him. He's a reliable teammate. He's not the best player in the team, but even when things are going shit around him, he'll still fight hard. You can get some top players, if they get kicked and they're not having the way, they'll sulk. Yeah. You kick this guy 10 times and he'll get up 10 times. Do you know what I mean? So those are the people that you respect the most. And you're one of them people, because people know that whatever you say, you mean. You know what I mean? I know loads of people that you talk to. We all talk to. None of us are stupid. And you will watch these podcasts because they're famous. And then we'll walk away and go, bullshit. We'll get that hour back. I thought they were going to talk about being genuine. That was no, but fucking blowing smoke up his ass. Right? Yeah. You know what I mean? But then obviously, like, if you can get people that are highly respected in this industry, and don't take this the wrong way, but in the industry, me and you, even though I got to a certain level, we're still nobodies, right? Yeah. We're still nobodies. Yeah, sure. So if you get somebody who's very respected speaking to a nobody, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
In their eyes, you are somebody.
Yeah, and what's super important is,
and don't lose sight of that.
No, and you know, it would have been very, very easy for me to reach out to the UK's best coaches and the people that everyone talks about. The people that aren't on my podcast, there's a reason for that. And I am selective of who I want to have on the podcast, because I want it to be a team effort and to bring value and education and empowerment, but not chat shit. And that's super important to me. And, you know, I'll never lose sight of that. I won't, you know, I get people offered to come on here, like being offered to come on the podcast. And I need to ensure that it's the right conversation for the audience.
Yeah, 100%.
I pick up what I call the vibe. And that's not me being a dickhead either. It's not me being egotistical. I think about this a lot. I literally go to bed and wake up thinking podcast. But it's super important to, actually reflect on that and go, yes, I've stayed in my lane. It doesn't matter where the podcast goes.
Yeah.
Like you said, I will remain the same person like yourself. Now, maybe we actually finish with some news that you told me, if it's appropriate, about the UK beef. Is that something we can talk about yet?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Well, for a few years now, Alex Mack has wanted me always to have my own column, right? Always has, right? When I was going to have my own column, I took ill in 2020. And mentally, I know that I've not been 100% to do a consistent column. I could have done the odd column since then, but consistently do a column every month, I wasn't in a really good place. So in going forward, I am obviously now in that great place, and I'm going to be doing a column. Still got to name it, what I'm going to call it. I don't know yet. I've got to sit down and have a proper conversation with Alex, and I want to touch on subjects that's not your average subject in the beef magazine. We all want to be generic and we all want to be different to ourselves. I'm going to be touching on certain subjects like we touch on. But what I really want to do is I want to be one of the first columnists to kind of go on my social media page and say, right, I am doing a column on the 55th of February, right? What would you like me to touch on? I want to engage with people. I don't want people to ring up. I know loads of people that can have the beef in a gym, see a couple of pages, a couple of physiques and show it, right? I don't want them to be that. It's like I read columns, right? I remember when Ernie Taylor had his column in Flex, however it was, and I read it because it was brilliant. Do you know what I mean? The content, you know what I mean? I want to bring that time back where somebody actually reads a column because it's something that they're relating to. So obviously what I want to do as well is I want to touch on a lot of subjects that we're touching on now.
Yeah.
But I also want to get you involved as well for not just for the women, because you're just as good with men as you are with women. But I just want to be able to I'll have guest columnists. Do you know what I mean? That I'll put a little article in what I'm saying. You know what I mean? I'll give you an example how I'll do it. I said, well, I was speaking to Sarah Parker the other day, and this is the kind of questions I asked Sarah, and then I'll put them on, and that'll go in a page, and then people will go, wow, I didn't know Sarah could talk about stuff like that. And then they'll reach out to you. So it's opening different doors so people can reach out. And just before we go, I want to say one thing. When you turn around and says about Britain's best coaches, right? I think that's all bullshit. And I'll tell you why. Because you know what Britain's best coach is? Britain's best coach is the coach that can reach out to their client and improve them. That's Britain's best coach. Not names that people put on social media and go by, this, that. This is not slagging these people off because they do great work and stuff like that. Or even friggin' Fletcher's coach, Neil, phenomenal coach. But he's not the best coach in the world. The best coach in the world is the one that reaches out with his client. So we're all on that same thingy. He might know more than people and he might have a better class of athlete, but your best coach in the world is somebody that you can, that helps you.
Yeah.
To bring the best out of you, right? Whether you step on Olympia stage or Bradford stage or whatever, if your coach has improved you, then he's the best coach. You know what I mean? Simple as that, innit? Because you think about it, right? You can name the best footballers in the world, the top 10 footballers in the world, or the top 10 boxers, and everybody's opinion will be different. You haven't got millions and millions of people all picking the same top 10, have you? You haven't.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that in itself, at the end of the day, right, you're the best coach for your clients because they're still with you. So that speaks for itself.
Yeah. And right. Back at you.
Keep being you. Like I say, we've got a lot of things coming up. We're going to do articles in the Beef magazine. We're going to eventually, when we can travel, I think the next stage for us to do is a little workshop where me and you and a couple of others will actually be in a country where people can come and see us and actually speak to us behind the scenes. We'll put on a seminar for them. And then if people want to come behind the scenes and speak to us personally, there's a lot of need for that. It might take us a while to build that up, but that's something I think we need to do.
I actually said to Matt when I was in Thailand and we did our first podcast, I was like, one day I would actually travel back to the UK before we knew we were coming here to do a seminar with you and like people like Small But Mighty, we could really get a good I've
done a few gym ones and they're fantastic, very personal. you know what I mean? Very intimate. You know what I mean? You don't need to do it in front of 500 people. Sometimes 20 people in a room is brilliant. They're very personal. I've gone to loads of seminars with Ronnie Coleman and all them, and the best seminars they've done is when they're done in gyms, when it's just 20, 30 people, because they're fantastic, because you can relate, you can speak to everybody. You're not on stage with 1,000 people. You're intimate. You ask any pop star when he does an acoustic thingy in a small club, he loves that better than a stadium tour.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you feel like you're connecting. So that's the next thing.
Yeah.
So
if anyone's listened and this is something that is, you're like, whoa, this would be quite cool, meeting Pat and Sarah, maybe some others, then of course, let us know. But thank you so much for coming on again.
Thank you.
It's so cathartic podding with you, Pat. All night I'm going to be in and out.
It just flies, doesn't it? It just flies. It just flies.
Yeah, it's so good. And Pat will definitely be coming on, and we'll keep you posted with everything. But thank you so much. And if people did enjoy it and want to follow Pat, I'll put his Instagram in the description. Yeah. But tag us on your stories, message us like last time.
Don't ever change. Don't ever change.
And
right.
You.
We love you for a reason. Okay. You take care of yourself.
Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye, darling.
Hey.